Hey everyone, what's happening? It's the T and Mortgage podcast with John Coleman, episode number 38. How are you, John?
How are you? Firstly, before we begin, I have to highlight the sign in the back here now. It's brand new. Folks, I don't know if you know me at this point. This isn't me. Right? This was my Christmas present from Norm, and I have to say, it does look fantastic. And it's up on my wall with pride. I obviously had to get someone to put it up on the wall, but it's there now. And yes, JC Mortgages has come alive, Norm. So thank you for that.
It looks great, and you have a wonderful company, so it's definitely on brand. My biggest fear was that I misspelled something when I sent in the order, and so I literally, like in the middle of the night, popped up and double checked two or three times that I didn't misspell mortgages. Imagine that if there was an error
I,
on
by the way, the odd email I write, I sometimes misspell the word. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I'm kind of going, oh my God. Anyway, so we thank God for autocorrect and all that stuff. Sorry there.
me too. Those
Um,
5 a.m. emails or those 10 at night after a beer emails are. It's better to save them in drafts and send them the next day, you
oh,
know?
absolutely. So I'm just trying to get this right. Apologies. There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
But yeah, so John, we have a good one today. It's going to help a lot of people. This is all about non-Irish buyers in the Irish market, whether that's foreigners, immigrants, expats, just investors, whatever you want to call them. And it is a significant population in Ireland that buys, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, just from without knowing precisely, I would say at least 75% of the people we help would be what we classify as non-Irish.
Wow.
As you know, we have a division literally set up to help the Brazilians here in Ireland. I literally, at the back end of last year, have set up a division to help people from India. So they'd probably be the two biggest markets that are out there. But then you have South Africans, you have Polish, you have the Philippines, you even have, there's even been more people coming over to Ireland from America due to a certain, my favorite president that you have over there. But in fairness, even before Mr. Trump, there was definitely a lot of Americans coming over just for the way of life here in Ireland. So um, I would say it's about 75% of my business is helping non-nationals, as we call them, educate themselves, because there's so many things. Obviously, and probably, and this is just a sense, um, because I have nothing but admiration for anyone that can go to another country and suddenly navigate a new beginning, a new way of life, and then being able to own a home in a foreign country. I just don't think I could do it. But I do think we probably give greater value to them where they feel they need more education. Your Irish person is educated enough in the ways of Ireland to make this
Yeah,
happen without them. Obviously, the brokers can still bring value to them, but there's not the same sense of, oh God, I don't know what I don't know. Okay.
yeah,
While
yeah.
anyone that's coming from abroad does, they put their hands up and say, I don't know what I don't know and I need to know. Okay. So I
And
need to
it's all
talk
at
to
once. It's not
what?
gradual. It's like if you're living in Ireland, of course, you get this information, bits and pieces over your whole life, to your point.
Yeah.
But if you're moving there and you're starting that process of really putting down roots and buying a property, life changing, it's all at once. You need to know everything. So talk about intimidating, huh?
Yeah, so that's probably why that will be our biggest, from a business point of view, the biggest segment of the market is helping people who aren't Irish get their homes here. And I kind of ties in with my business philosophy as being educating, as sort of being educators first and foremost. That if we help people understand where they're at, that when they're ready, they'll then be happy for us to represent them. And that's kind of my core business ethos. And it ties perfectly in with people who are coming into this country looking to settle down. That
Yeah.
okay, it can be like, I think I've said this to you a few times in the past. When I bought my first house and I was a mortgage broker, I got sick with the thought of what I was doing. It was like, oh my God, how much money am I borrowing? And I had to kind of just, I was helping people buy houses. This is my first one, and I was overwhelmed by it. So I can only imagine coming
Yeah.
into a country where you're still uh, probably going, should I be buying in this area? Should I be buying in that area? What are the different government schemes? It would be, could be pretty daunting, overwhelming. So that's where education is the most important piece of this, and it's probably why we're doing very well with Brazil, with the Indians, with the Americans, with South Africans, in that when they value the way we do business, you know.
It's interesting too that you mentioned that about 75% of your business is non-Irish. And a couple stats I'll throw at you, and then we could jump into some of the nuances of what you see
Yeah.
for education and stuff. But about 76% of property purchasers in Ireland in recent years were Irish citizens. So that number is almost flipped. So you're helping three-quarters
Okay.
of your
Yeah.
clients as well. And a lot of those 76% are Irish, or they're EU citizens, but non-Irish, or they're from the UK or stuff like that. But
We still count those UK people as European. We haven't divorced from them yet, you know. We're still
yeah. And Ireland's population, as of 2025, is about 5.5 million, of
yeah.
course. And net migration is about 125,000 immigrants per year. So that's definitely significant. And I think in Dublin, you probably see a lot more because there's a lot of great jobs that attract people, right?
Yes, and that is where obviously most of the jobs are. It's
Yeah.
not like it's there's still a significant non-Irish population throughout the country, but obviously
Yeah.
Dublin is the centre and where most of the big jobs are. But there's a lot of doctors, nurses, but even sort of the computer programmers, they're not actually tied to a location as such, right? Because like they can like a lot of them can work from home. The doctors and nurses are tied to a location, but there's hospitals all over the country, so it's not just Dublin, but it would be in the main Dublin, yeah.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
didn't
And
know that 75% were Irish, and we're getting
that might be
75%
outdated.
were just
You
interesting.
A lot of times these stats are a year or two, even if it says a 2025 stat,
Yeah,
maybe it's the past census or something like that. So that'll probably change. But there's about 1.2 million foreign-born residents in Ireland, which is about 23 to 25% of the population. So you have
yeah.
quarter of the population. Let's see what else I had for you. They said some of the top countries of origin, and this is per the last census, so it's a little bit old, but exactly what you said. India was the largest, Brazil, Romania, Spain, Poland, Ukraine, um, Lithuania, and now, of course, you have a whole lot, Pakistan, China, Philippines, and now you have even more Americans, those damn Americans coming. Um,
They are welcome, Norm. They're absolutely welcome. I've been helping Americans get their homes here for a number of years. So no, it's just one American I don't like. That's it. No, it's not you.
Oh, So, John, let me ask you now that we covered some of the stats, and there's a very significant population of non-Irish people in Ireland buying properties. What are some of your experiences, like some of the biggest pain points, some mistakes they make, or some of the tips that you would give them?
Okay, the first myth, shall we say, is that some people feel that they need to have stamp four to be able to buy a house. Okay, so that is absolutely incorrect. Okay, in the main, you definitely need to be working in Ireland for at least 1 year before all the banks will lend to you. Okay, but in truth, there is a bank out there that would lend once you're working for 6 months. Okay, now obviously, when you're looking at what I see is people would have two people's incomes, and one person might be working for a year and the other one have just taken a job. That can cause problems because they think I'm ready now, and then I have to say no.
Mm,
Both of you need to be working a year, but we could possibly look at something after 6 months with your spouse or the husband being in the second job. So that would be the first significant myth that they have to wait. But there are again little nuances that they need to understand around that. The second thing that causes issues is credit reports from back home. Okay, so there's a thing called an Experian credit report in most places, and again, if there's loans back home, that will have an impact. So
yep.
it's people do have the view that, oh well, Anthony, that's home is back home. It can be hidden, shall we say, right? Well, the way the banks look at it here in the main is if you're not here in Ireland for 5 years, right, they will look for this report. Okay. If you're not Irish and you're sending money back, if you've been here for over 5 years, but you're sending money back home, they will look for this report. What they want to make sure is that you don't have any other debt in your name that you have an obligation to make, basically, right? So, I don't mind saying this out loud. For people sending money back home and they don't have any loans, there's no real issue, okay? But some of the banks do treat sort of family commitment. So, say someone's working here and they're helping their family back home by sending money back home, right? And the banks here, and I fundamentally disagree with this, view that as a commitment, okay? View that as the same as having a car loan, okay? And they will reduce the amount of money that they will lend to people. I have grave issues with that. So the advice I would give, and I'd stand over this advice, is I would never tell someone, do not help your family, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But be clever. Mm-hmm. Send it via cash. Take it out of your bank account, send it via cash, and then you can still help without it affecting your ability to get a mortgage here. Okay, I have no problem saying that to anyone because I don't like that policy. I think it's fundamentally wrong, but it's not a victory you're going to have with the bank. So if they can't see it, they can't judge you for it, so it won't go against you.
Yeah, it's just how you structure it, and there's apps. You got to be careful.
And every mortgage is all about how it looks on paper, right? It's all about presenting an application that makes you look as clean living. Sorry, that's the wrong choice of word, but that your application, just the bank accounts look like these are normal people. There's no strange money being sent out of the country that just creates questions.
Fit it in a box,
it is all about fitting in a box. So you need to play a game, in effect. You need to live the life in a box for the period of time to get the keys to your house. Then do what you want with your own money. Help your family in any way you possibly can. At that point, the bank will only care about is that their mortgage is being paid.
And also with you said take out money with cash and send it back home, Western Union or whatever. A lot of people use apps these days, and
I would say give it to a friend to send home.
I would say be careful because some of these apps now, like
the banks will look to see all apps. They look to see a Wise account, if there's any kind of anything that they'd see going out of an account. So say they were sending money to Wise, well, give us your Wise statement, and then see the Wise statement, and the Wise statement sees money going back wherever. It's cash is the only thing that stops questions being asked because there's no trace of it. So you take money out, you give it to your friend, and you say, "Get that back to my parents."
Yep,
right.
Got it.
That would be, and I have no problem saying that advice publicly because I don't agree with the bank's view on this. I think you should be allowed to spend your discretionary funds as you please.
How about the another big difference between a lot of foreign buyers or how things work in other countries in Ireland is the realtor system or lack thereof, right? You mentioned that before.
That's a great question. And especially people from your neck of the woods, my friend, they can't get their head around it at all. But let's educate. Ultimately, in other countries, you have a realtor who the person basically is your agent, and their job is to find you a house. It doesn't work like that in Ireland at all. It's basically the estate agent is basically their client is the person selling the house, not you. Okay, so they don't really communicate with you the way you'd want because in theory they're not on your side. Okay, now I've talked about the psychology of getting the estate agent on your side, and there are ways and means of potentially doing that. Whether the agent is still a human being and still will want to sell the house as quickly as possible for the best price possible. So if you can talk to them and say, "Listen, I want to make a deal early. What will close this?" Or come in at the end and try to. So you can. I won't say manipulate is the wrong choice of word, but you can get the agent on your side, okay? But fundamentally, the concept of having someone out there whose job it is to find you a house, doesn't exist, right? There is, I'd say it is out there, but it's really high end stuff. It's for people who are looking to buy houses, maybe 800,000 above, don't have the time. They're coming into this country and they're looking for someone. So it does exist, but it's not mainstream. Okay, so it's not for you and I who might be looking to buy a house. It's for you and I and the normal person who might be buying houses anywhere up to 500, 600,000. It's up to us to find the house, right? And find the estate agents who are selling the house, and then we need to start a relationship with that person. But they're only selling the one house. Then you might see another house you want, and you need to have another conversation with a different agent, and you have to try to play the game with many people. So it is a head scratcher for some people when they're coming in. And then the other word that they mightn't be used to hearing, the word lawyer is obviously common, but we have a word called solicitor, okay? And it's the solicitor who's involved in our process at this stage. And they're gone. Like, anyone can buy a house without a broker, okay? But the solicitor is almost like God in this process. You cannot deal with it. The contracts go to the solicitor. The solicitor gets the money from the bank. The solicitor sends the money from the bank to the selling agent, right? Now, solicitors aren't my favorite profession, and their communication skills, in my opinion, leave a lot to be desired. Now, there's one or two names I give out because they will take my call, and I can crack the whip a little bit with them to move them along. But my view on solicitors would be, I hope most solicitors are listening, would be, if their if I had the same level of customer service as the solicitors do, I'd be out of business, right? Their communication leaves a lot to be desired. And they're not even some of them aren't using systems to try to at least make themselves more efficient, So anyway, we won't go down that rabbit hole. That would be, but it's a shock to someone who's not like how long the whole process takes. You might agree to buy a house today, and if it's a second-hand house, it could still be 3 months before you get the keys to the house because there's a lot of back and forth with legal side. Obviously, if you're buying a new property, you sit back and wait for it to be built. Okay.
Wait.
And one thing that people will also have a problem with when they're coming over here is the concept of an asking price. Okay, the asking price is a price that's put out there by the agent, but in this current market, you can suddenly see it going for 50, 60, 70,000 more than the asking price. So that leaves a really bad taste in people's mouths, or they just can't get their head around it. In my view, I would just say take the asking price with a pinch of salt. There's a website called the Property Price Register, which is, you talking about stats, does give stats about the price of houses that were sold. It's a government agency and it advertises. Now it's slightly dated, maybe 3 or 4 months, okay, but it's still a pretty accurate and up to date research tool to kind of give you a sense of what price in the area that you're looking for, But I'd almost ignore the asking price as a concept, because that's either used to set the really high ceiling, or it's used to bring a low ceiling in and bring people competing with each other to bid the price up. So ignore that and maybe try to set your own barometer or your own walkaway point from maybe looking at the Property Price Register and saying, okay, well, would I pay 10K over that price to get my home now? And that would possibly be your walkaway point,
And these are all good points. My thought is too, from the perception of the person, the buyer. Of course, they're coming, to a new country. Everything is new, like you said. The place they should start and the best resource for this education and guidance and these steps in the process is, of course, you. Like you're literally I don't mean you. I mean a mortgage person, right? That's literally the first place.
To be a mortgage person, right? And obviously I think there's great value in using in a broker, but getting a full and proper sense of where you stand with regard to your finance, it is the starting point. But we're all human beings, so I get the concept. Well, I want to buy this house, and then you try to work out can you make it happen afterwards, right? But um, in terms of doing it in a proper, structured, most realistic way of succeeding, right? If you know the way I always operate, okay, understand where you are now and understand what you might need to do to get where you want to go to. They're the kind of the two elements, right? And then element number one is you make a decision. Then, okay, do I work with what I can do, or
Mhm.
do I wait? And there's no right or wrong answer there, okay? And that's a judgment call. But by only learning that information, you could spend you could like I'm not saying it's wasted time, right? Because it's all education, it's all about understanding what's out there. But it can kill dreams, shall we say, and it can leave you disillusioned and disappointed.
Mm.
If suddenly you're going looking at these houses in these areas, and then you're talking to a banker, talking to someone like me, and saying, "Well, you're wasting your time at this moment in time." Okay, so um, that would be the kind of so get yourself educated, and I think I do believe a broker's better placed. I'm not just promoting myself here, but I do think a broker would be better placed to give that level of advice. That's ultimately what they're here for. You know, a broker here is in my view, is here to educate, help get you ready, whether that works for what you could do now, or at least educate you to the point where you know what you need to do to get where. So if you feel that you're very close, well, then you might wait. If you think, well, okay, well, that's not really going to be in my range within the next 12 to 24 months. Well, maybe let's work with what I can now. And that, again, that's just a personal choice, but it is understand your situation, you know.
And I know you have a passion for helping people. Number one, you're a natural educator, and this isn't a commercial, it's just fact. And also you put a lot of time and effort and money and staffing and stuff into the education process, not just for people in who were born in Ireland, but people from other countries. So to wit, like if someone came over and they were more comfortable working with a Brazilian representative and who spoke Portuguese or a language from India or Spanish or different African nations, and you actually have materials, resources, information, pages on your website, and human beings that you work with that could
Well, we
help.
have we have Brazilians and we have people from India as well. I wouldn't want to say I have every nation covered from a national speaker. That would be maybe in 10 years' time. Normally, when JC Mortgages, thanks to that sign up there, has grown to that level. We will have. It would be a vision, though, of course, because I am looking at. From a marketing point of view, you'll get this. I do believe there's great value in marketing, kind of not mass marketing, but kind of is it maybe niche marketing? So you're targeting a particular,
And
uh,
education and providing value is the best
yeah.
way to market. It's not
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
self-serving. It's help
No,
them first, and if they want to work with you, great.
it's funny you hear people say, "Oh, don't give away too much information," right? And my view on that is, well, no, I don't. I don't mind educating people to the point, right? You don't throw the garden sink at people because that's overwhelming, but educate them to the point whereby they understand. And
Mhm.
I do work on the basis that if I've done a good enough job doing that, then you'll trust us to then represent you and manage the process. So it is a team, but it is fundamentally built on two things: education and then trust, right? And you need to, and probably trust comes from being a good educator, you know.
And having people they're familiar with on your staff who understand their issues,
Absolutely. Yeah,
challenges,
and
their fears,
the
their
journey they've been through, like as I said, the girl that the team from Brazil, we have, as I said, we have 6 people from Brazil working with. They've been all in the country a long time. One has been working with me for 10 years, so they know what people have been going through, and the trials and tribulations of living in Ireland are trying to um, settle here, like the rent situation, the job situation. So they've been there, done that, and understand the challenges that people have. But also, when English isn't your first language, being able to get into detailed questions to again educate yourself. You're come to a foreign country. You need to know. You don't want to be overwhelmed. So you've got probably 1,000 more questions than someone from
yeah,
Ireland may have, purely because of well, this is all so new. Well, let's being able to talk in your own language makes a huge difference. You know.
that's great. And so if someone, no matter what country they're from, including Ireland, wants to get started, just educating themselves, getting some advice, some guidance in the property journey and mortgage, where can they go?
Well, it's our mortgage roadmap. So just reach out to me. We have a link that we would send to people where they fill it in. Takes about 5 minutes. We then would produce an updated mortgage roadmap if we haven't been talking to them in a while, and we'd have a conversation around it and see, is it something they would work with now, or it's something they should wait, or any questions around, especially, and this is what people will always ask when they're coming in when they're non-Irish, the government schemes, right? We didn't touch on them yet, right? Okay, so there's the help to buy scheme, but if you've just come into the country, that's really of no value to you because it's based on the tax you've paid in the last 4 years, right? So again, people hear this figure of 30,000 that I can get 30,000. Yes, but you need to pay that level of tax. Then there's another scheme called the First Home Scheme. That you could be here just 6 months, and that you'll be able to avail of that. So again, educating yourself as to the type of schemes that are out there, and do they work for you? Okay, obviously they want to buy a new house. They want to get the 30,000. They mightn't qualify for the 30,000, and the house price might be over 500 anyway, so they wouldn't qualify for it. So just knowing these little details, it's so important. They always say the devil is in the detail. Well, when it comes to buying a house or a mortgage, it really is the little details. And the one thing they'll always hear is, and again, this is a bit of it's true to a point. Oh, the banks will lend you 4 times your salary. Sometimes we can get 4.5 times your salary. So people then tend to have a habit of taking the most optimistic view of what they can do. They're earning 70,000, but 20,000 is overtime, but they'll still say they're earning 20. I can now get 4.5 times 70, which is bringing, if my maths are correct, you're kind of looking at 300,000, right? But the bank might, because they're only being paid 50 and they haven't done the overtime for a year, might only lend them 4 times. So they might only lend them 200. Now, I'm exaggerating, but there's a gap between what the bank will do, 200 plus 270, what the reality is, or what they think in their head. And that's a big gap. So it's understanding those, not making the most optimistic assumptions, because my friends told me that's they would be the greatest lines I hear from people. Yeah, no, but my friend got this, right? And you have to say it in the most respectful way possible. Yeah, but you don't know all the details about your friend, right?
You don't know about the 10 friends who failed miserably and didn't get the house or didn't get the mortgage. They don't tell you about it.
But listen, I get where they're coming from. And you've heard me say this before. I tell people very clearly that I'm the school teacher you didn't like in school, right? Mm-hmm. But in the back of your head, you knew he was making sense. I don't know. Did you ever have one of those teachers? I certainly have.
I think all of them. I didn't like any of them, but yeah, I appreciated most of them down the road.
Yeah, but you kind of got them. Most of them, like there was 1 or 2 that you thought were really good, you didn't like, but when they have a go at you, you kind of go begrudgingly, right? Even because you remember being a teenager, you didn't like admitting anyone else you were wrong. Begrudgingly, you kind of go, yeah, okay, they have a point. That's my role in all of this, right? And I don't mean that in a smug way. I mean very much in a kind of a, listen, I want people to buy a house from a business point of view, okay, because that's how we make our money, okay? But so I don't mind saying that, but I have a duty of care, first and foremost, to give correct information. You're messing with people's lives. This is one of the biggest things, okay, apart from moving to Ireland, making the decision that they want to stay in Ireland and set down roots here is one of the next biggest decisions they'll make. They don't need a nice guy. They need someone who's going to tell them what they need to know, right? And that is, I don't want to become everyone's best friend. I want them to go at the end of this process. John helped us immensely get the keys to our house because he was there, he communicated properly, and we understood where we stood on the back of it. And that's and that's the message I give to all the team that work with us. So here, that
not just selling the sunshine as they do too often in the US.
If I start talking about the beautiful Irish weather, it's been raining for 2 weeks here. They'd know I was full of whatever that word is that we can't say. Me.
So John,
Exactly.
one last thing here
Yeah.
on our podcast. This is great information. I can't wait to get this out there in the world. I have on my show notes here to ask you this. Can you please say thank you for your business in the top 10 languages that you help people buy homes? I think you could do this, right?
Well, no, I can't. You could have warned me about that one. I can say it in Portuguese. Well,
Oh,
obrigado. Okay.
hey, there you go. There you
I
go.
could say it in Irish, Guramahagut, right?
There
And
you
then
go.
obviously my mother, that's my Irish word. You've never heard that before. And then obviously in English, thank you all. We're so grateful for all the business that you're giving our way. My sporting hero is Novak Djokovic, as you know. He speaks 7 different languages, right? So that is something. Maybe hit me with this question in a year's time, and hopefully I'll be able to. Um,
That's a good
I
goal
would
to
have done
learn,
some.
at least.
You could have warned me. I would have done some
uh,
prep work, and I would
It's
have.
not on my notes. This is a blank piece of paper, as you see, right? I was just setting you up to play.
You just like twisting and not making me feel uncomfortable.
I do.
Okay.
I like tormenting you, John, but it's
Julie
all for the greater
succeeded,
good.
my friend. Julie succeeded, but yeah, you brought me down a peg or two. Here was me talking about being the great educator, and now you're making me feel. But I
Uh,
can't say it. I can't say it in Spanish.
well,
You say for me in Spanish.
gracias para su
Okay.
negocio, gracias para su
Okay, you show off.
confianza. Well, hopefully we didn't torment the listeners too much through this podcast with our humor and our and great advice from you. But honestly, thank you everyone for listening. And no matter where you're from in the world, you're welcome in Ireland, and buying a property is part of a new life there. And John is here to help.
Yeah, and I'd say on that point, you do hear stories that sometimes, this hurts me when I hear it, that some nationalities aren't being made feel welcome. The message I'd like to say to people is that is just by the stupid few here in Ireland. Most Irish people are really, really welcoming of anyone from anywhere. Or as far as I'm concerned, the world doesn't belong. I have this fundamental. I've had rows with some of my friends on this. I think anyone should be allowed to live anywhere in the world. I don't believe in borders. I don't believe in, but it is the world we live in. And my view in is, listen, if you feel Ireland is the right place for you to live, we're here to help, basically, and please make sure you enjoy living here, because that life we all only have one life, and we need to make the most of it.
Absolutely. Great message. Great way to end the podcast. TN Mortgage, John Coleman, JC Mortgages. Thank you, John. And we'll connect next month.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Norm. Talk to you soon, my friend.